the future of team building and company culture, which is something I think about a lot here at Wavy. I'm just going to spend the quick 30 seconds on what Wavy is so that everyone has context. But hi, everyone. I'm Sean Hewitt, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Wavy. We are building the platform that empowers teams to create amazing culture wherever their people are located. So all the tools, all the technology you need to plan, manage, review, and most importantly, improve your team building initiatives across your company, and with an emphasis on that people are everywhere. So not just online team building opportunities, but in person, do it yourself, and asynchronous too. In building Wavy, we talk a lot about what company culture means and what the future of work and really people and culture as a whole looks like, which is how Noah and I cross paths, and Wavy and Gusto do quite a bit of work together too. So thought it'd be good to come together and talk about it. And I'm really excited. So that's the short bit on Wavy. Let's get into it. The first question is, what is company culture? And, this may seem like, this may seem obvious to those of you tuning in, but again and again, I see people leaders still looking at company culture as, what are you talking about? We do Friday happy hours, we do Friday beers, stamp, done. We've got culture and our team is happy. And this way of looking at things, I mean, there may be some beer fans or happy hour fans in the crowd, but I think it's just so outdated, and it's something that was outdated before COVID-19 and the shift to distributed work, but it's something that most organizations are taking a hard look at and reimagining now. The real definition, although I'd like to hear how you define it too, Noah, is company culture is really a shared set of values and shared set of beliefs across the organization. We have a whole way of breaking it down here at Wavy, but Noah, if you want to jump in with how you view culture, that would be cool.
Yeah, for sure. And so it's funny, like we obviously talk a lot about this at Gusto as well, considering what we do in employee recognition and helping people build cultures of recognition. But the way we've sort of defined it, very similar to what you hear on the side, it's like really like shared beliefs, values, and behaviors of an organization. And like the TLDR there is like, it's the way your company gets things done. It's how people work together to get things done. That is your culture. And whether that's very collaborative or very solo or whatever, cultures are cultures, and they're all defined sort of individually, and then that builds your collective culture.
Yeah, I totally agree. How we've kind of broken it down at Wavy is that you can really look at defining culture around pillars. And what I like to break it down under is, what do you think, what do you do, and what do you say as an organization? You first have to get the think part right. Like, what do we fundamentally believe? What are our vision, mission, and values? And what's the narrative or story that we're putting together around our brand? And this, can't just be crafted from leadership down. It has to be something that all stakeholders buy into, not just employees, but also customers, clients, community members. These are all important people and important roles in building what you think. What you do is really how you build out your practices around people and place, like your work environment, your talent acquisition and training and retention strategy. A lot of these things fit into what you do to reinforce that. And then what you say really comes down to the practices. How are you actioning on this? What are you doing with your internal and external stakeholders to reinforce this and put this in place? And I think I like this slide because we're all here today to talk about team building, but it's really just one practice within a larger strategy of company culture. And I think so often people take like team building, fun, and socials and culture and call those the same things, when it really is a lot more complex than that. I've got my star on team building because that's what we're really laser focused on here at Wavy, but the conversation is much bigger than that. So those are the pillars. That's how I kind of break it down. Now, for those of you tuning in, I really wanted to do a cool Zoom thing where Noah and I would actually appear on this screen, but we couldn't figure it out. So I put this picture together as a conversation break. I'm going to stop sharing my screen in between, and we're going to discuss each of these sections. So Noah, I would love to discuss with you, when it comes to when it comes to culture and about, your values, vision, mission, um, how are you thinking about that at Gusto? Like, maybe tell us a little bit about your vision, mission, values, maybe share a favorite value. I'll do the same for Wavy.
For sure. Yeah. Well, it's just what you said. It's a big puzzle, and each piece is so very important. And if you're not kind of putting each piece in as needed, you get this incomplete picture of how you're reinforcing your culture and building it out. And so we're trying to do that, right? We're implementing wellness things. We're building our DE&I program right now. We're figuring out how we can continually better our talent acquisition and recruitment strategies, how we're engaging our employees, how we're making sure that they feel supported, where their growth is going from. It's this whole sort of mosaic of things that you have to continually work on and iterate and build on, or else there's just, it's never going to be as effective as it could be. And it feels like a lot because there's so many pieces, like you said, that you're kind of having to work on. But I think that the trend that we're all seeing, and with remote work and whatnot, is that I feel like we're swinging away a little bit from the HR people generalists, and starting to have a little bit more focus on these specializations, which I'm very excited about, because that means that on my team, I can start hiring DE&I specialists. I can start hiring talent acquisition specialists. I can start hiring learning and development specialists. All these these people who are so good at their jobs can focus on that area, and we can build sort of this beautiful culture together. But it is a long-term play. Like, it's not something that's ever going to be done. I think that's the biggest key, is like, you can't win at culture. You can't be done at culture. It's never finished. It goes on forever, which is hard.
That we have to be comfortable with. Okay, but talking about values specifically, because I feel like, pre-remote work and pre-distributed work, those are often things that live on the wall and that are, on display. Whether that's the best way to do it, I'm not saying it is or isn't, but how are you kind of reinforcing your values at Gusto? And maybe what's your favorite one? My favorite one at Wavy, we've got some pretty quirky values. And I think that comes down to our brand. We call our brand a high quality goof. And I think that's something that our whole team embodies and shares. It's a quirky bunch. And our mission is to help people create amazing culture wherever people are located. So our values kind of roll up to that. Like, my favorite one is keep it spicy. It's all about, not being afraid to shake things up and get out of your comfort zone. Doing new things is always a good thing. And we prioritize taking time to experiment and learn and explore, and maybe do things out of the ordinary. Like, we did oh my gosh, I'm going to get Nisha in the chat to help me out here, but we did a pretty unique dance class as a group. Our whole team did a dance class together. That was super fun. We did a taekwondo. Experience. We've had some of our clients do the same, but just trying things that may be out of the ordinary, and that's how we're kind of trying to reinforce that value. Do you have any examples from you and the Gusto team?
Yeah. So we have our 4 values, and they're pretty straightforward. But there was sort of a turning point in the Gusto history where the founders, they did this right. They had their values on the wall, and that was kind of it. But then they take a hard look and were like, this is not who we actually are. So they redid the values, and then they put the effort into talking about them every week and highlighting them and telling why these are the values of Gusto, and really doing that thing. And so the way we reinforce it is we use our own platform recognition. All of our recognition has to be tied to one of our values. And cool. So when you're recognizing somebody, you're rewarding somebody, you have to tie to one of our values. You have to say why that person sort of personified that value. My favorite one is listen. It's one of our values, is listening. And I think it speaks to our culture here of sometimes you just need to sit back and listen and get feedback to grow. Whether that's coming from a client, whether that's coming from a coworker, whether that's coming from your manager. Sometimes it's good to stop talking and listen more. And I think in our society, especially in this North American society, we often don't do that. And so I like that is one of our core values, is just to just listen for a minute. And sometimes you're going to get something that makes you uncomfortable, and that's okay. Be uncomfortable for a bit.
I love that. I think we've got a poll to just gauge with the group, how do you feel about your company's core values? And, I may have put a joke in there, so I'm sorry if one of them actually is your values. I think it's okay. But, often at Wavy, we're bringing it back to the foundations here of, okay, yeah, you're looking to do a team event. Like, I'm going to walk us through a holiday party example towards the end of this presentation, but okay, you're doing an event, but where does that fit in with your larger strategy? How are you planning your team building and culture initiatives? And what are your core values? Is it tied back to that? And often we'll see clients or see folks in the community that we're talking to about this be like, wait, you're right. Like, I don't know. We just did a mixology class and we just did that because like, I like cocktails, and that's not based on that foundation of like, what do you think? Like, what are your vision, mission, values? Oh, we have one taker for curiosity. Shout out for that one. What are your vision, mission, values, and how can you tie your culture programs and your team building initiatives back to that to help reinforce and drive impact there? Looks like we've got a decent amount of answers here. Big shout out to 13 of you that have great values. Would love to hear about what some of them are in the chat. But looks like, majority could use some work, and that's okay. I think back to what you were talking about a couple of minutes ago, like, I think organizations are completely rethinking how they're approaching people and culture as a whole, and what that even means within the context of their company. So values and vision updating as part of that is totally okay, but nice to bring it back to the basics sometimes. I've got some more slides. I think it's important that we work in some facts here. Let's talk about the facts and the science happening here. But really, a couple major trends that we're seeing completely change the game when it comes to culture and when it comes to team building. The first one is, should be pretty obvious to everyone here, but the large majority of companies are not going back to a workplace model where they all work within the same four walls at all times. I love this story that I recently heard from a CEO of a tech company that I was talking to. He said, people used to choose where they work and that's where they live. Now people choose where they live and want to work wherever they want. Employee expectations have completely shifted when it comes to this space. And I think the future of work is permanently going to be more hybrid, remote, flexible, distributed, whatever word you'd like to use, than ever before. And that's something that should be celebrated. I think comes with newfound flexibility of work, a new definition of how we work and how we balance work and life. And that's a whole rabbit hole we could get into. But it doesn't come without its challenges. This one should be of no surprise to this audience too, but we're going through what many people are calling a great resignation. That over 40% of the workforce is looking for their next opportunity right now. And maybe can reinforce some feelings around this in the chat, but I know most people leaders are up at night right now about fears of acquiring and finding great talent and retaining talent and making sure employees feel and teams feel happy, connected, and good about where they work. I think Noah, I saw you laugh a little bit at this one because you're in this role at Gusto. So maybe can you jump in on this trend a little more?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard hiring right now. And I think so we've been hiring a lot, grew the team a lot this year. We're doing a lot of things. I've spoken literally to hundreds of candidates in the past 8 months. And the one thing I hear over and over and over again is people want to work for a company that, is contributing back, that it aligns with their values. Like, I haven't talked to a single person who hasn't said, I like your values. They really align with what I want to do. Your mission is really critical. And I want to work for a company that is doing more in the world, across the board, to interns, to head of marketing, to technical team leads on our development team. Everyone is saying they want to work for a company that aligns with their values. Mm-hmm. And they want to see that, and they want to see that a company is actually doing something with those values. And so it's changing the game. in a very meaningful way when it comes to hiring and recruiting and retaining talent. Is like, if you're not actively working on these things, it's going to be harder, and it's just going to get harder.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly what I've been hearing too, and experiencing my own. I think it kind of comes down to this problem. There's many problems coming about because of where work happens and why people are looking to work. Like, that leads to many different things. But bringing it back to team building, I think the problem is the more distributed a team is, the harder it is to build meaningful company culture. Like, I can't look across the room and say, well, Noah looks a little upset today. Maybe I should go grab lunch with him or do something spontaneous. It has to be so much more intentional than it was before. And I think as a result, as companies are navigating this new landscape, we're seeing that teams of 5, 50, 500, 5,000 all suffer from the same things: lack of connection across their distributed team, decreased morale, and unfortunately increased burnout, and are looking for a way to rebuild meaningful culture, make sure there's relationships and friendships being built at work. That's super important for how happy people are in their workplace. And a solution to bring teams together in an intentional, proactive way. So there should be no surprise to the audience here, but let's discuss. I have some discussion points. I wish we could appear, not stretch break yet. Let's discuss. I wish we could appear on the slide, but this will have to do. I'm going to stop sharing again. I don't know if we shared the results from poll number 1. Maybe we can. We did share that? Okay, yeah, great. Yeah. That window popped up for me. But I guess what I want to dive into is, how are you approaching this at Gusto? Like, what is your workplace policy? How are you kind of reacting to these two big trends? I mean, people have never been more distributed. It's never been more important to put things in place that help attract and retain talent. That's a lot of pressure from all sides. How are you kind of reacting to this?
Yeah, and to be fully transparent, like, this is sort of that connection piece is the number one piece of feedback we get from our team and all of our pro surveys. Is that they want to feel more connected to their team members. And we're fully distributed across Canada. Like, we've got team members in BC, Alberta, Ontario, Quebec. We're looking at bringing people in on Manitoba, even out in the Atlantic provinces, the Maritime. So it's getting harder and harder to build that connection. And I'd say that's one of the main focuses that I'm working on right now, other than, hiring more people. But it's, and we've since we started, we set up a social committee. We got these people we're getting feedback from the team of what kind of events they want to be doing. We're starting to experiment with in real life events at a sort of micro scale of there's 4 people in Toronto, go for lunch, company will pay for it. There's 3 people in Calgary, go for lunch, company will pay for it. There's 20 people in Vancouver, let's split you up into little groups and go have lunch together and connect. And then we have monthly, our monthly team events where we play games, we get together. And the goal of all of those is always let's get together and connect. Let's find some connection. Let's break people up into teams and get them working together. And then the other part of it is every one of those team building events, a part of it has to do around Gusto team members. So whatever game we're playing, whatever we have to do, we sort of crowdsource fun facts about different Gusto team members. And then that's a part of the game that we're playing, is you have to guess these fun facts. And another way of just trying to build those connections, having people learn a little bit more about each other, these strange, obscure facts or hobbies or things that they've done. And it's oh, I never knew that. That's a great conversation starter for the next time I have a meeting with that person. That's
a huge part of it. I mean, this is probably the problem in space that I think about most on a given day. But I find so many times people leaders or teams are looking to host an event or looking to do a monthly social or a celebration. And we kind of dig into the why, okay, but why are you coming together and what's the goal here? And, this shouldn't just be a one and done event. What theme does this fit into? How are you kind of creating shared experiences with that theme over time? And so often from Wavy experiences, the best feedback will be about the mini games, the teams that we put them in, the competitions, the icebreakers, conversations, because people do just crave that connection. You made cocktails and mocktails. That's all fun. It's a great thing to be doing. but the real magic of that experience is actually the kind of icebreakers and mini games that happen in between, where we get put into a breakout room and have a little conversation starter or a game or task to be completing. And that's often what people care about the most. So that's been super interesting. And then second is, our team is remote too. A lot of the clients we're working with are remote first, but I think an important distinction is that remote first shouldn't be remote only. Having opportunities to gather and work together in person, as well as online, as well as asynchronously, are all equally important. And I think it brings us to our key word that brought us together here today, of flexibility. That's what people are looking for. They want flexibility. They want to have options. They want to have choice of when they do things in person and when they do things online. And I think companies that are leading the way in that are going to win when it comes to kind of leading culture and talent. What do you think?
Well, and I think it touches on like your inclusion and your diversity efforts, as well as like different people want to be engaged in different ways. Like not everyone wants to do the big team thing. They don't want to do the giant Zoom where everyone sees each other's faces for an hour. They want to go sit with somebody for 30 minutes and have a coffee chat with them, or they want to do a small team building thing, or they want to do the month-long challenge where they can do it on their own time, in their own home, wherever they want. And then they share updates in Slack. And so, that's the flexibility piece. I mean, that's why we're also excited to have this conversation with you, is like, flexibility is key. I think flexibility is the way company cultures need to grow. Is you need to be flexible, you need to iterate, you need to adjust, and part of that is that listening, that feedback you're getting from your team, and when you make a mistake, being like, that didn't work, let's try again. And being open with that and talking to your team about that, like, hey, we're going to try this thing, this is why we're doing it. If it falls flat on its face, that's okay, because at least we're trying.
Yeah, I love it. I think we've got a second poll here to just understand from this group, where is your team working? What sort of policy are you putting in place? My personal favorites here, there, and everywhere, but I think technically that means hybrid or remote. I'm not sure. Thanks for dropping your LinkedIn in the chat, Alexandra. We'll open that up after the webinar. And shout out to Melissa, who says, I find a variety of virtual events, safe in-person events, and competitions really drive engagement. Totally agree. I'm going to get to that after an exciting little break we've got coming up here. Yeah. Okay, we've got
maybe five more seconds for people to answer the poll. I'd love to get a few more people answering. And then yeah, I'm excited for what's coming up next.
Awesome. All right, thanks everyone for answering this. We've got a winner, and it's hybrid. Yeah, love it. And do you think here, there, and everywhere should be added to hybrid? I think so.
I feel like here, there, and everywhere is like, we haven't made a decision yet. People are everywhere.
Yeah. And it's happening with teams where people have gotten up and moved out of city centers or moved out of areas that used to have headquarters. So it's been wild to see. I'm one of them. I used to be in Toronto and moved out to Vancouver with the move to remote work. So it's been interesting.
As did I.
Love it. Okay. Thank you so much for answering this poll. Super interesting to see. It makes me even more excited to talk about a hybrid or flexible first approach to team building. After our break, we've got a guest here who is going to run us through a little stretch break. We were talking about, how to build flexible team building strategies, and thought, why not bring in someone who can help us do just that as part of the webinar. An important rule of thumb for Wavy experiences is they have to be interactive. We never want someone just staring at a screen for an hour. So I thought I'd bring that into today's presentation with Bobby, who is a friend, works in the employer branding and communication space, and she also is a yoga instructor. So Bobby, if you could raise your hand, we'll pull you up here to lead, promote as a panelist. Here we go. And can lead us through a little desk stretch. I don't know about you, but I have laptop injuries. Like we spend way too much time on our screen. So let's do a stretch. Hi, Bobby. Thanks so much for joining us. I think you're just on. There you go.
It's like,
How's it going?
good. How are you?
Good. Laptop injuries. They're real.
They
Do you
are.
have laptop injuries?
Yeah, I was actually also recently reading about like pinky strain from like holding your phone like this. Apparently, like it can really strain this muscle. So hold your phones like this or like some other way. Because I was definitely feeling it. Apparently, all these people are getting like carpal tunnel from holding their phones with their pinkies.
Oh my God. Yeah. I also got the tip that like we're supposed to be texting like this. Everyone's like looking down.
The hunched over.
Yeah. But anyways, for everyone here, Bobby's going to lead us through a 5-minute desk stretch. And then once we get back, Noah and I are going to be chatting about how to put an omnichannel plan into action and how to measure the success of your team building programs. So I know you'd maybe like to watch us stretch too, but I think let's turn off our videos.
I'm going to turn off my video.
Bobby leads the way. Awesome.
Great. Thanks for having me. Awesome. Well, hi, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in and for joining me on this desk stretch. I'm just backing up a little bit so that you can see more of what I'm doing. For accessibility reasons, we're going to stay seated today. So as Sean introduced me, thank you, Sean. I am a yoga teacher here in Toronto, but then I also work remotely as a manager of employer brand. So today I'm just going to have you stay seated. Make sure you have both feet planted flat on the ground, and let's just start with your hands on your thighs or on your knees. Come to a really calm mindset and try and sit up really nice and tall. Imagine there's like a string from the crown of your head that reaches all the way up to the ceiling. So from here, I'm just going to start rolling my shoulders up towards my ears and then down behind me. So I'm rolling my shoulders backwards. And if you think about it, imagine that your shoulder blades are really wrapping around the back of your rib cage as you bring those shoulders down. So I'm inhaling, lifting my shoulders all the way up to my ears, exhaling as I let the shoulders drop down and back. I'm trying to move with your breath. So inhaling to pull them all the way up. And exhale, roll them down and back. And then now let's start rolling your shoulders forward. This might be a movement that you're a little bit more used to, but we're still going to synchronize that movement with breath. So inhaling as you pull your shoulders up towards your ears, exhaling as you let them just drop forward. And just keep moving your shoulders a little bit. Notice if this feels new to you today, if you haven't done a ton of movement today, and just work with it. Like if you kind of want to like shimmy from side to side with those shoulders, that is totally fine. And then from here, just let both shoulders drop, let them come to neutral. And then I'd like you to, if you can, take hold of your chair with your right hand or your left hand, pick a hand, see if you can take hold of your chair or take hold of something so that you're keeping your shoulder nice and low. And then just slowly let your opposite ear come to your opposite shoulder. So I have my right hand down. I'm kind of gripping that right side of the chair. And then my left ear is coming towards my left shoulder, so that my neck along the right side can get a nice little stretch here. And then just really breathe into this stretch. Feel the space being created by your neck opening across that right side. And think about that right shoulder really, really dropping. Take a nice deep breath in, really breathe into this stretch. And then on the exhale, let your chin come towards your left collarbone so that you're just sort of looking down towards your left thigh and you're just stretching into the back part of the neck here, keeping that right shoulder down. Breathe into this stretch. Take a nice deep inhale. And when you get to the top of that inhale, give yourself a quick second just to check in with your body. And then as you exhale, let your chin drop into your chest, roll your chin, roll your head all the way over towards the other side so that your right ear is coming towards your right shoulder. Let your right hand come onto your leg, maybe grip the left side of your chair, the opposite side of the chair than you did last time. And now we're just stretching out the other side of the neck. So for me, that's the left. And I'm gripping the left side of the chair. My right ear is coming down towards my right shoulder, just creating space across the left side of the neck. Take a nice deep inhale here. On the exhale, let your chin come towards your right collarbone. Just stare down towards your right thigh, keeping the left side of the neck really nice and long and just getting into a different part of the neck here. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. At the top of that breath, on the exhale, roll your chin in towards your chest. Come all the way up to neutral, and then just allow your head to tip backwards, gaze up towards your ceiling. But try and keep control with the neck. Just look up for a second as if you were gazing up towards the sky. And then just come all the way back to neutral. And take a nice deep breath here, just kind of reset. From here, on your next inhale, reach your arms all the way up. Keep the shoulders away from your ears, and I have my fingers spread wide at the top. So I call that energizing through the arms, while at the same time allowing the shoulder blades to wrap around the back of the rib cage. Reach the hands high towards the ceiling. Now pull your shoulders up towards your ears and gaze up towards your fingertips. And see if you can pull your triceps towards your ears here so that you're really reaching straight above you, gazing straight in front of you now. Pull those triceps towards your ears. On your next exhale, next time you breathe out, come to what are called cactus arms. So you're going to bend both elbows to about 90 degrees and think about pulling your chest forward and up. Maybe even gaze up a little bit, pull the chin away from the chest, take an inhale. On the exhale, just bring those arms together and round your spine a little bit. Bring your elbows together, round the spine. Let the shoulder blades spread across the rib cage. On the inhale, we'll flow back through those cactus arms, and then arms reach all the way back up. Gaze up, really spread the fingertips wide. Exhale to those cactus arms. And then bring your fingertips together. Elbows are wide. This is our last piece here. We're just going to do a couple little twists. So you're just going to twist to one side. Try and keep your fingertips together so that you're twisting with your torso. You're not kind of like moving your arms. Your arms are staying nice and neutral. We're just going to twist from one side and then twist to the other side, and let your gaze follow those arms. And then on each side, just take a second to take your left hand to your right thigh or your right hand to your left thigh, and just twist gaze over the opposite shoulder, holding here so that your chest is opening towards one side. Flow back through center and twist towards the other side. So now I have my right hand on my left thigh, gazing over my left shoulder this time, opening up my chest there. And last deep breath in. Let's come back to neutral. Reach the hands up towards the ceiling once again. And exhale, just bring your hands through center, maybe back onto your thighs. My watch was listening to me. Maybe bring them back all the way onto your thighs and just breathe. I hope you enjoy the rest of this amazing webinar. Thank you so much for joining me today for our flexible break. Thank you, Sean, for having me.
Thanks for joining us. That was awesome. I don't know
Thanks so much,
about
Bobby.
you, but I need to do that like in every meeting or something.
Thanks again. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for joining us, Bobby. We'll see
Thanks,
you
Bobby.
soon.
Bye.
Getting lots of love in the chat, so that was great. I feel a little looser now. I feel a bit better. I don't know. Gonna incorporate that. Gonna be watching this recording and
just have that one clip cut out for you, and you can have it on the calendar notification. Just stretch for 5 minutes every day.
Yeah, there's something to that. Getting lots of thank yous and amazings in the chat. Thank you. And now to the rest of this webinar. It's a cool webinar, right? That's what we were going for here.
Something a little bit different.
A little different. Okay, so we've talked about how you define company culture. We've talked about bringing it back to the foundation of your vision, mission, and values. And we've talked about the new realities of work. Employee expectations have completely changed. Where work happens has completely changed. So how do we bring all these pieces together and make a strategy for culture and team building that will work? In looking at future of company culture, our view is that teams really need a way to bring their people together through shared experiences that can help a completely distributed global team feel connected and feel like they actually know each other outside of day-to-day work. That can help increase happiness and satisfaction at work, and ultimately increase retention, help teams build a great place to work that people are proud to be a part of. So, there we go. putting this plan into action, I think we've got a fun poll for this part, but this is kind of the practices section from that company culture pillars that I was showing earlier. In that often we talk about team building as, fun and games, the Friday happy hour that I started with at the beginning, or a competition. But what we're seeing from employees and from teams is that they're looking for something a little more diverse and have a little more variety in this. So I'm curious from the crowd here, as we look into 2022, which category is your top priority? What do you want to focus more on? Seeing a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion here, seeing some social good and learning and development. And, this may be a good moment to touch on gifting. Gifting is an interesting one because it kind of fits into some of these. They all can be interconnected, but I'm talking about asynchronous giftable experiences, talking about perks, talking about company swag. Do you think swag is an important part of culture, Noah?
I think it's a piece. I think it's one of those things where it makes you feel like you're part of the group, part of the tribe, right? Like here's your piece of Gusto. Here's your hoodie, here's your t-shirt, whatever it is. And it's that you have to be part of the group. You got the little something that makes you part of the group. I think it's important. I think in the past, and some companies still do this, is they put too much emphasis on swag. Swag becomes the all-encompassing. It's like you get your welcome package and it's got 3 pieces of swag. When you get recognized, you get more swag. The gifts you get are swag. Everything's branded, and then it becomes, it's like, people don't want a bunch of branded stuff. They want 1, maybe 2 things or something that's unique and fun. But after that, they want things that are going to be that are important to them.
Yeah, that's totally true. I mean, the Shopify sweatsuit's pretty cool. I wouldn't mind one of those, but I think I totally agree with you. And shout out to Melissa in the chat. Like, if it's tastefully done, it can be an important piece of this ecosystem. And I think what we're big believers of at Wavy is that if you root it in experiences, if it can spark a shared experience, then it can be meaningful. So while we've listed gifting here, that could be a painting and planting kit in a box that actually leads to an experience that other people at the company are experiencing too, and can be a shared memory or a shared thing that you've both taken part in. I think that's a pretty special way of looking at gifting and tying it back to shared experiences. But really, in putting a plan into action, I find a lot of companies will focus on the socials, will focus on the fun and games, when employees are actually looking to have opportunities for learning and development, to take part in a DE&I focused workshop, work from home wellness workshop, some way to participate in social good and social impact as a team. I think these pillars are becoming much more important looking into the future of culture and team building strategy, and is something we're in full support of at Wavy. When teams plan their team building initiatives, and in our culture calendar, they can actually tag it to these different pillars and start to get recommendations that say, hey, oh my gosh, my example here is actually missing from our poll, but hey, it looks like you're missing wellness. You may want to implement a little bit more of that in your program. Here's some of our suggestions. And we quite literally missed wellness in our poll. So sorry about that, but it's also an important section.
Very ironic.
It is very ironic because that's exactly how I was going to talk about it. But here's the results for the poll. We're seeing for next year, teams are really wanting to focus a lot more on learning and development in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think that's pretty reflective of what's going on when it comes to employee expectations, that team building and that creating meaningful company culture isn't the fun and games that it was slotted into in the past. It's giving more time, it's focusing on wellness, it's providing opportunities to upskill and learn new things. It's changing quite a bit. And I think that's something that should be celebrated. The next thing is figuring out your mix. And I think this works pretty well for this group here because it seemed the majority was looking at hybrid workplace policies. Even if you're remote first, you can still look at hybrid policies for team engagement and for team building, and that remote first shouldn't mean remote only, and that your team building strategy should have a good mix of in-person, online, do it yourself, and asynchronous options. I think the days of like, we're having a holiday party and it's in person in Toronto or in New York, and that's it. You know, we're going to measure success based on how many people showed up. I think that's a bit outdated, and something we're hoping to make a change in. But yeah, I know I dropped a gift from the office in here. I couldn't not. But it's just showing that things are still going to happen in offices, but they're also equally going to happen online. And at Wavy, we started saying online instead of virtual, and in person instead of in real life, because this is real life. You know, we are distributed and we are tuning in from all over the place. And I think that's really, really cool, not just from a community perspective here, but also from interacting with colleagues and clients. Like, it's so much more borderless than it used to be. And being intentional about even like the words we choose for where these things are happening and how we work is an important part of it. Anything on the mix here? Or should I jump to the next slide?
I mean, I fully agree. Like we're trying to do this a bit, and we're seeing like people are craving that in-person interaction, and they want to see that. And like we still have an office space that people use, and especially our junior employees and our interns and our co-op students, they're there a lot because they want to have that interaction and build that network with their fellow coworkers. Because I think it's almost more important for them, because they like, especially the co-op students, because they're going to go back to school and they're going to go do another company, and that network that they're building is going to help them in their career in the future. But it's definitely seeing that like that in-person piece is really important. I love that like remote first doesn't mean remote only, and so it's finding that flexibility and doing things for everybody.
We could make collaborative swag that says that from both of us.
Yeah,
sounds
I like
good.
it. I like it.
But yeah, I think, you know, before I jump to the next slide to show everyone here how we're approaching this, I think so many people have thought about, oh my gosh, we're gonna have people online and in person, and it's got to be hybrid. Has anyone here seen that episode of The Office when he thinks he's invited to the in-person party, but it's actually a webinar tune-in party at his office? I think this notion that like hybrid events should be actually hybrid, like there should be people live attending online and in person together and interacting with each other live, is a little forced and isn't something that's going to organically work. What we believe in instead is making it omnichannel, really approaching initiatives with flexibility. So, you know, how we're doing this with our clients, how we're seeing kind of leaders in the market approaches is like, your holiday party, that's now an initiative. It's essentially a marketing campaign. Yes, it's important to celebrate the holidays and recognize your team for the amazing work done in the past year. It's an important time to gather. But what's engaging and what's accessible and exciting for team members is going to be super different across the board. I myself am a pretty extroverted person. I get my energy from other people. I would absolutely love to attend a holiday party in person, make some cocktails, maybe enjoy some catered food, be at a cool venue. But that reality isn't the same for everyone I work with. And what we're encouraging leaders to do is approach these as initiatives. You know, we have a holiday theme happening, and team members will be able to opt in or RSVP to whichever format is most engaging and most exciting for them. You know, whether that's doing, I tend to go to cocktail and mocktail making so often for my examples, and there are other things you can do. It's just an easy one because we've all been there. You know, they can choose between attending in person. Maybe this is in Toronto and it's at a venue and they can hang out with their colleagues in person, take part in a class there. Or, you know, equally fun and equally like planned out and intentional, can join an online experience where you get a kit delivered, you get some treats to enjoy, you get to take part in an experience and also take part in a game show, something interactive with your team. And then for those who don't want to attend a live event, you know, this was a big question that came up with a head of people and culture recently that I was speaking to. She's like, if I don't want to join the live event, does that mean I'm not engaging? Does that mean I'm not like an important part of our team's culture and our team building? And I think that was a good point in that if you want to do something asynchronous, maybe learn on your own time, a new mocktail recipe or do some cookie decorating. And, maybe there's async ways to share pictures or share stories between all three of these channels. That should be, that shouldn't differ how leaders look at your engagement any more than taking part asynchronous versus all the way to in-person at the venue. I think we're going to see a lot of movement towards this trend where you then get insights and results on how your initiative or your theme has gone as a whole. And success isn't just measured based on participation. Success is measured on impact it's had on how connected team members are feeling, how happy they're feeling, how much they've contributed and put input towards your culture initiatives. So yeah, these are our thoughts on making it omnichannel or making it flexible. And I think it's really exciting.
I love it. I always think about the we're talking internally of like, what should we do? And everyone's like, let's do a cooking class. Everyone wants to do something around food. Food is so good. It brings everyone together. And then it's like, yeah, but there's a lot of parents with young kids here, and getting them to go into the kitchen at lunchtime to do a cooking class with the rest of the team while their 3-year-old is beside them, doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it's like
we have a team doing pie making. It's fall. People want to do pumpkin related things, but they said the live component's completely optional for whoever's joining in. Anyone who signs up can get the kit, all the supplies, the recipe for making, I think it's pumpkin pie. But if you want to join and do it live together, great. If you want to do it on your own time and have this little perk of all your ingredients to make pie from scratch, and you can watch the recording and maybe do it with your kids and family after work, then that's equally okay. And I think it's just really taking that step to make sure these programs are more accessible and inclusive, totally in line with our poll of participants here wanting to focus more on DE&I in the next year. I think it's something that can be worked in across all pillars of culture. And this is one pretty impactful way to do that. I'm going to see what the next slide is here. Oh my gosh, it's a discussion. I feel like we've been discussing this already, and we only have a few minutes left. So I'm gonna skip this one. I think this is the last time everyone here will see this slide. So thank you for coming to our talk show. But moving on to measuring success. This is a hard one, and I put a very famous scientist here on purpose because it is kind of a science. Measuring the impact of team building and culture initiatives, I feel like is at its infancy, in that most companies, and let me know in the chat here, like I'd love to see what the reality is for participants today, but most companies don't even have a central spreadsheet to see across our company, what are all the culture and team building initiatives we've done in the past year? How much did we spend on them? And baseline, how did that go? Did people show up? Did we get feedback responses? Like most teams do not even have visibility into this. And starting, the first step is to gain visibility. And our view on that is not only company-wide initiatives, but department-based initiatives or ERG or social committee focused initiatives. We want to give people, leaders, access to view just what's happening, like what experiences have been put in place, what categories are trending best, and how's it impacting participation and engagement. I think that's kind of the baseline. And then from there, can start to look at indicators. I put employee feedback at the top because ultimately it is the most important measurement of how successful these programs are. And we're building our platform in a way to build culture with employees, not for them, really incentivizing their participation in like, what would be meaningful for you? Or what do you want to do next? Or what have we not done yet that we're missing? And really having employees become an important stakeholder in planning culture. Outside of feedback, which is always great to get, you can absolutely measure participation, engagement in different initiatives, and and which channels or which categories work best. And then looking at satisfaction, like how satisfied are you with these singular experiences and then these programs as a whole, doing pulse check surveys, looking at things like office vibes and culture amp to gauge, how that correlates to happiness or satisfaction at work in a given time period. And then connection, and this is a big one. With all Wavy experiences, we measure pre and post experience. How connected are you feeling to your team, and call it that level of connection. Before we kick off programs with new teams, we also, very in line with our brand, measure level of stoke. So how excited teams are feeling about coming together and about taking part in these experiences. But these are some of the indicators we're looking at. Earlier, when I was saying this area is really in its infancy, like it truly is. And I'm excited to continue to explore how can teams measure the exact ROI, the exact impact of their investment in team building and their investment in culture initiatives. This is the path we're going on at Wavy, and we're really working on with our clients, so that in the future teams can see, by investing in this program, by putting this culture calendar and putting these experiences together, here's how it's impacted our retention or our happiness index at work or our productivity in a given year. And I think we're collecting a lot of exciting data around culture calendars, around shared experiences, about networks and relationships at work that I think can lead to more actionable and real insights than top-down surveys can. I think we're going to see a lot of change in how that's measured in the coming years. But that's my take. I'd be really interested to see if there are any questions or comments from the audience on this, and Noah, how you're kind of thinking about this too. But before I stop presenting my slides and we can move to questions, I just want to remind everyone, before you go to planning that next initiative and putting your culture calendar and team building plans into place, be sure to take it back to your why. Like, what are our vision, mission, and values? How can I use those and put a plan in place that reinforces them? And you've got Obama reminding you there of that too. And I know Noah put my LinkedIn in the chat. I've also got my email and handle up here. We're both on Twitter too. Love to chat there. But thanks so much for joining today. I think we could move to any questions if there are any. And really enjoyed chatting about the future of team building and company culture with all of you. It's been great.
Thanks, Sean. I mean, that was awesome. I really appreciate it. And I think what you touched on there is just that, like, so often we aren't measuring the success of our team building initiatives, and really a lot of our initiatives. And I think the rise of people analytics is like, people are collecting more data now. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to put those pieces together. They're trying to have a more business focused approach to people and culture. It's not just trying to change the historic thought of HR and people is just this giant cost center of an organization, when it's actually a giant revenue generator of an organization, and trying to like shift that mindset and shift that sort of conversation with executives of like, no, we don't just suck up money. We're the ones that actually produce all of the money, because we're the ones who take care of everybody who does that.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe we should do an experiment between Wavy and Gusto and then come back here on October 28th next year and look at team building to revenue and how those two things come together. But I totally agree with you. And we're starting to see, people, leaders that are leading the way in this change already understand that investing in the employee experience, investing in team building will lead to greater results for your employees, for your customers, and for your business performance over time. So yeah, super exciting. We do have a question.
Got one question. Yeah. You want to read that out?
What do you suggest doing when there's a team that doesn't seem to care about the overall culture, when they are simply there for a living or a paycheck, which is totally fine if that's the case? That's a good question. I mean, okay, I've got one example that's similar to this. Some companies, as part of their vision, mission, values, are much more performance focused. Like, they're there for work and they're trying to reach these objectives, and their culture really is around work and productivity. So one of our clients that I'd say lies more in that space look to team building and culture as a reward for reaching certain performance targets. And I'd say they focus more on the kits, gifting, perks side of things than the wellness, DE&I, learning side of things, because it is much more performance based. So I think you can kind of tailor how your program's designed to fit that culture. I don't know, Noah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's true. And I think like I like that. I think overall we're getting away from that, like everyone has to have a passion for their role and live and breathe their role. It's like, no, people have lives outside of their work. People work to get paid, and that's okay. And they should be paid for their job. And some people, like, they're like, I don't make friends at work because work is work, and I have my friends outside of work, and that's what I want to focus on, and that's fine. But I think, like you said, yeah, like find out what they like and reward them in a way that they like, which is gifting and the perks and the extra things that, like, everyone likes that, getting that stuff, even if they don't care about the culture, and it reinforces the values of your organization of like performance based or their values as an individual.
It's actually becoming so custom that some people might not like a gift because they'd like to do a gift card and shopping list instead, so that they can shop local and support their local community. But I think we'll end it off with the keyword here in flexibility. You know, if you have team members or a team as a whole that doesn't seem to care about overall culture, I feel that might be a misread on what they do care about. And if they don't care about doing live events together, that's okay. There's other ways to engage and still create a shared experience across your team, and doing it within work hours. That's an important part of it too. But yeah, I've really, really enjoyed this conversation. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Noah, anything else to end us off?
No, I think just would like to say thanks to Sean for an awesome presentation and having this conversation. I think it's really important to talk about this stuff. Thanks everyone for joining us. And you know, we've got another one coming up next month on how to engage people online volunteerism, because it's a lot harder. It's a big thing, being volunteers, and how do you volunteer in this remote world or hybrid world. And so we're going to be talking to somebody who's, you know, kind of an expert in that realm. So if you're interested in that, more details to come soon. So thanks everybody. Thanks, Sean. I'll see you all next time.
Bye.